Let me paint you a picture. It's 2017. A 24-year-old warehouse worker in Ohio puts $300 into something called XRP. His coworkers laugh. His dad calls it internet gambling. His girlfriend tells him to spend it on something real. 3 years later, he quietly pays off his car, in cash. Not because he was lucky. Not because he was some financial genius. Because he understood one thing that most people still don't. In this market, conviction is the rarest asset of all. So today I want to talk to the person sitting on exactly 1000 XRP. Maybe you bought it 6 months ago, maybe 6 years ago, and wondering if it even matters anymore. Spoiler, the answer isn't what you think. And the reason why is going to completely change how you look at your position. Stay with me. This one's worth it. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes when they evaluate a crypto position. They measure it in coins. I only have 1000. That guy has 1000. I should have bought more. But here's the thing: crypto wealth was never built in the accumulation phase. It was built in the holding phase, and those are two completely different games with two completely different skill sets. Think about it like planting a tree. The moment you put the seed in the ground matters, yes, but the tree doesn't care how many other seeds you planted. It cares about whether you watered it, didn't dig it up in a panic during a storm, and gave it time to grow roots before the seasons changed. 1000 XRP is a seed, and right now we're in a season where a lot of people are either drowning their seeds in anxiety or ripping them out of the ground the moment there's wind. What I want to do today is give you the framework to be the gardener who actually makes it to harvest. We're going to cover 3 things. 1. What XRP's role in the global financial system actually looks like in plain English, and why it matters more now than it did 5 years ago. 2. What your 1000 XRP could realistically represent across different future scenarios, with honest math and zero hype. 3. And this is the one most videos skip: the specific mental errors that will cause you to lose money even if XRP performs exactly the way you hoped. Let's go. Most people who hold XRP can't explain what it actually does without using the word fast. It's fast. Transactions are fast. It's faster than Bitcoin. And while speed is part of the story, it's the smallest part. Here's the bigger picture. Right now, moving money between countries is like trying to mail a package by routing it through 6 different post offices in 6 different countries. Each one charging a handling fee, each one operating on different hours, each one with its own paperwork. A business in Brazil trying to pay a supplier in Vietnam doesn't just wire money directly. The money hops between correspondent banks, gets converted multiple times, and arrives sometimes days later after losing a percentage at every stop. For small businesses and individuals in developing economies, this isn't just annoying, it's financially crippling. XRP was designed to be the neutral bridge currency that eliminates those hops. It converts in under 4 seconds. The fee is fractions of a penny, and critically, it doesn't require a pre-funded account on every side of the transaction. Now here's why this is bigger than it sounds. The global remittance market, money being sent across borders by regular people, moves approximately $800 billion every year. The global interbank settlement market is measured in trillions per day. These are not niche numbers. These are the arteries of the global economy. XRP doesn't need to dominate that market to be extraordinarily valuable. It needs to become a meaningful regular participant in it. Even a fraction of that volume flowing through XRP's network creates a demand profile that dwarfs anything driven by retail speculation. And here is the part that most people in the crypto community underestimate. XRP's biggest competitor is not another cryptocurrency. It's inertia. It's the existing system, which is slow, expensive, and protected by decades of institutional habit. Breaking inertia takes time. It takes regulatory clarity. It takes pilot programs becoming production deployments. It takes the boring, unglamorous work of enterprise adoption. But history shows that once that inertia breaks in financial infrastructure, it breaks fast and it breaks permanently. That is the foundation your 1000 XRP is sitting on. Alright, let's talk numbers, and I'll be honest with you the way a good friend would be, not the way a hype account would. I'm not going to give you a price target. Anyone who gives you a specific price target for a crypto asset is either guessing or selling you something. What I can do is walk you through 3 realistic frameworks and let you draw your own conclusions. We're in a period right now where XRP has survived a multi-year legal battle, emerged with a degree of regulatory clarity that most crypto assets don't have, and is sitting at the edge of what could be a significant re-rating by institutional investors. In this first framework, XRP doesn't explode. It grinds higher as institutions begin allocating to it cautiously the way they allocated to Bitcoin in 2020, quietly before anyone in retail noticed, at prices that would be considered modest by historical cycle standards. Your 1000 XRP delivers a return that would beat almost every traditional investment. Over the same period, most people won't get excited at this stage. Which is exactly why this is where fortunes start being built. Here's something interesting about the way technology adoption works. There's always a gap between when something is being used and when the public knows it's being used. Imagine a version of the next 24 months where 3 or 4 major financial institutions quietly announce they've moved meaningful transaction volume to XRP-based infrastructure. Not because they announced it at a conference, but because it shows up in their annual reports as a line item under operational efficiency. When that story becomes visible to the market, the repricing isn't gradual. Markets are forward-looking until they're not, and then they're very suddenly backward-looking, bidding up the asset to catch up with a reality that was already happening. In that framework, 1000 XRP is not a modest position, it's a front-row seat. This is the long game, decades, not years. A world where digital assets have become integrated into central bank infrastructure, where cross-border payments are as frictionless as sending an email, and where the early participants in that infrastructure hold assets that are priced accordingly. Aggressive? Yes. Impossible. There are very serious people in very serious institutions who are planning around exactly this scenario. In that world, 1000 XRP is the story you tell your kids about a decision you made quietly while the world was busy being distracted. None of these are promises. All of them are within the range of outcomes that serious analysis supports. The question is not which one will happen, the question is whether you'll still be holding when it does. Now we get to the part that actually matters most. Because here's the brutal truth of crypto investing. Most people who read the thesis correctly still lose. Not because their analysis was wrong, because they couldn't manage what was happening inside their own heads while the market did what markets do. Let me walk you through the 3 psychological failure modes I see destroy otherwise smart investors. When you bought your 1000 XRP, you had a number in your head. Maybe it was a 3x, maybe it was a 10x, that number felt meaningful when you said it. Then the market moves, XRP goes up 40%, and instead of revisiting your original plan, your brain quietly rewrites it. Well, 40% is good, but it's not really what I meant. I'll hold for more. Then it dips. And now you're not selling because you're waiting to get back to where it was before it dipped, which is already higher than when you bought it. This is the moving goalpost trap. The target keeps shifting to wherever feels emotionally safe, which is always just slightly out of reach. The antidote is embarrassingly simple and almost nobody does it. Write down your plan before the market moves. On a piece of paper, the price levels at which you'll take partial profits, the conditions that would make you exit entirely, the minimum holding period you've committed to, and then treat that document like a contract with your future self. Because your future self, watching prices move in real time with adrenaline in their bloodstream, cannot be trusted to make the same calm decision your present self can make right now. There is an entire economy built around keeping you emotionally activated about your crypto positions at all times. YouTube thumbnails with red arrows. Twitter threads that start with urgent. Discord servers where every hour brings a new signal. Podcasts speculating about what some anonymous analyst said about next week's price. This content is not designed to make you money. It's designed to keep you engaged, and there is a direct measurable correlation between how much of this content you consume and how poorly you manage your positions. The investors who perform best in crypto are often the ones who check prices the least. Not because they don't care, because they've already decided. They know their thesis, they know their exit conditions, and they've accepted that nothing that happens between now and those conditions should change their behavior. I want you to try something. For the next 30 days, check your XRP price once a week, not once an hour, once a week. Notice how your anxiety changes. Notice how your decision-making gets clearer. Notice that you don't actually miss anything actionable. That experiment alone could be worth more to your portfolio than any price analysis. This is the subtle 1. It's what happens when you start measuring your conviction in an asset by how many other people share it. XRP has a vocal, passionate community, and that community can feel like evidence of the thesis. Look how many people believe in this. We can't all be wrong, but crowd confidence and fundamental soundness are completely different things. Sometimes they overlap. Sometimes they diverge dramatically. The 2017 bull cycle was full of communities that were enormous, passionate, and spectacularly wrong about the assets they were holding. Your conviction in XRP needs to be grounded in the utility, the adoption data, the regulatory developments, and your own honest assessment of the risk. Not in the fact that the community is loud. Because when the community goes quiet and in down cycles, they always do, you need to have a reason to hold that doesn't depend on anyone else agreeing with you. That's the difference between a speculator and an investor. So what do you actually do with all of this? Let me give you a 4-part framework that you can apply to your 1000 XRP position right now. Not the time horizon that sounds sophisticated at a dinner party, your real one. How long can you genuinely leave this money untouched without it affecting your life? 6 months? 2 years? 5 years? Your answer to this question determines everything else. If your real horizon is 12 months, you should be managing your position very differently than someone with a 5-year runway. Neither is wrong, but lying to yourself about it will cost you. Every time something happens, a price move, a news story, a regulatory development, ask yourself one question. Does this change the fundamental reason I'm holding XRP, or is it just noise around a thesis that remains intact? XRP dropped 25% this week. Price event. Ask whether anything about the underlying utility, adoption, or regulatory picture changed. If not, the thesis is intact. A major jurisdiction permanently banned XRP from financial use. Thesis event. Reassess. Most things that feel urgent are price events dressed up to look like thesis events. Learn to tell the difference and you'll make dramatically better decisions. What would need to be true for you to sell 25% of your position? 50%? All of it. These answers should exist before the market starts moving. Write them down. Be specific. I'll take partial profits if XRP reaches X, or if Y fundamental development occurs, or if my personal financial situation changes in Z way. No plan survives first contact with a bull run unless it was written before the bull run started. List every source you currently use to follow XRP, then ask honestly, is this source helping me make better decisions, or is it keeping me emotionally activated? Cut anything that falls into the second category. Replace it with primary sources, official partnership announcements, regulatory filings, on-chain data, and long-form analysis from people with a track record of being right. Your information diet is as important as your investment strategy. Garbage in, panic out. So let's bring it back to where we started, 1000 XRP. A number that makes some people feel confident and others feel small, depending entirely on what they're measuring it against. Here's what I want you to walk away with: the size of your position is the least interesting thing about your investing journey. The most interesting thing, the thing that will actually determine your outcome, is whether you understood what you were holding, why you were holding it, and whether you had the clarity and the discipline to stay in your seat when the market tried to shake you out. XRP sits at the intersection of a real infrastructure problem, a constrained supply, and a regulatory environment that is slowly, frustratingly slowly, yes, but unmistakably moving toward clarity. The opportunities that change people's financial trajectories are rarely the ones that feel obvious and safe at the time. They're the ones that require you to sit with uncertainty long enough for the uncertain thing to become certain. 1000 XRP isn't just a number in a wallet, it's a decision you made, and the return on that decision will be determined mostly by the decisions you make after it. Now you have a framework. What you do with it is yours. If this gave you a different way of thinking about your position, hit like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are trying to think seriously about this space instead of just chasing noise. Subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. I cover the ideas most crypto content won't touch because the comfortable takes are usually the expensive ones. And one last thing, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. Everything here is for educational purposes only. Crypto is volatile. Positions can go to zero, and you should only ever invest what you can genuinely afford to lose. Do your own research and make decisions that fit your actual life. I'll see you in the next one.